Imagine surviving a war that lasted 10 years, only to spend another 10 years trying to get home. Along the way, you'll fight monsters, outsmart gods, resist immortal temptations, lose every one of your companions, and return to find strangers trying to steal your kingdom. This isn't just one of history's greatest stories. It may be the greatest adventure ever written. This is the story of Odysseus. This is the Odyssey. 10 years. That's how long the Greeks sat outside the walls of Troy. 10 years of siege, of bloodshed, of a war that started, depending on who you ask, over a woman, a broken promise, or the pride of kings. You probably know how it ends. A wooden horse, a gift left at the gates, Greek soldiers hiding inside its belly waiting for nightfall. It was Odysseus's plan, clever, ruthless, and it worked. Troy fell in a single night. The war was won. The heroes packed up their ships and set sail for home victorious. Odysseus should have been back in Ithaca within weeks, but it would take him 10 more years. Somewhere between Troy and home, Odysseus made an enemy he couldn't out-scheme. Poseidon, god of the sea. And the sea, as it turns out, is a very inconvenient enemy to make when your only way home is across it. The storms come without warning. Ships that survived a decade of war are smashed apart in hours. Men who lived through Trojan spears drown in open water. This isn't a war anymore. This is something older and colder. A god deciding a mortal's fate is not up to the mortal. And here's the whole story in one sentence. Odysseus wants exactly one thing, to go home. Poseidon wants exactly one thing, to make sure he never does. You'll see why as we go. Everything that follows is that tug of war, playing out across the entire Mediterranean. The first stop should have been a relief, a beautiful island, warm shores, friendly locals, too friendly maybe. The locals offer Odysseus's men the fruit of the lotus plant, and one bite is enough. The men forget the war, they forget their families, they forget they were ever trying to go home at all, they just want to stay, eat lotus and feel nothing. Odysseus has to drag his own men back to the ships in chains, kicking and crying, to save them from a paradise that would have swallowed them whole. It's a small scene, but it's a warning for everything still to come. The real threat on this journey isn't always violence. Sometimes it's forgetting what you're fighting for. Then comes the scene everyone remembers. A dark cave on a strange island. Odysseus and his men wander in looking for supplies and find something else instead. A den full of sheep, cheese, and the unmistakable signs of something huge living there. That something is Polyphemus, a Cyclops, a one-eyed giant, son of Poseidon himself. He rolls a boulder across the cave entrance, a boulder so massive that no 10 men could move it, trapping Odysseus and his crew inside with him. And then, one by one, he starts eating them. This is where Odysseus becomes Odysseus. Not the strongest man in the room, the smartest. He gets the giant drunk on wine. He tells him his name is Nobody. And while Polyphemus sleeps, Odysseus and his remaining men drive a sharpened, fire-hardened stake into his single eye. Blinded and screaming, Polyphemus calls for help. The other Cyclopes ask who's attacking him. "Nobody!" he roars, so nobody comes. The next morning, Odysseus straps his men beneath the bellies of the giant's own sheep, and they escape, as the blind Cyclops feels only wool passing beneath his hands. It's brilliant. It should have been a clean escape. Then Odysseus makes the one mistake that defines the rest of his journey. Safely aboard his ship, pulling away from the island, pride gets the better of him. He shouts back to the shore, announces his real name, Odysseus of Ithaca. Polyphemus, blind and furious, prays to his father. And his father is Poseidon. The god who already hated Odysseus just got a reason to make it personal. For a moment, things actually look up. The god Aeolus, keeper of the winds, gives Odysseus a gift, a bag containing every storm wind in the world, sealed shut, so that only gentle winds push his ships home. It works. Ithaca comes into view. After a decade of war and a year of disaster, Odysseus can actually see home on the horizon. He falls asleep, exhausted, so close he can taste it. That's when his own crew, convinced the sealed bag is hiding gold, not wind, opens it. Every trapped storm bursts out at once. The ships are hurled backward, all the way across the sea, undoing everything. Home disappears behind them again. It might be the single most gut-wrenching moment in the whole story, not defeated by a monster or a god, but by his own men's greed, within sight of the finish line. There's no time to recover. The fleet sails into the harbor of the Laestrygonians, giant cannibals who wait until the ships are trapped in the narrow bay before attacking. They hurl boulders down from the cliffs, crashing ships like toys, then spear the swimming survivors like fish. In minutes, 11 of Odysseus's 12 ships are destroyed, hundreds of men dead. Only Odysseus's own ship escapes because he was cautious enough to anchor it outside the trap. The fleet that sailed from Troy is now a single ship. The survivors land on the island of the sorceress Circe. She welcomes them with a feast, and then turns Odysseus's men into pigs with a wave of her wand. Odysseus is saved only because the god Hermes intervenes, giving him a magical herb that protects him from her spell. When Circe's magic fails on him, she's shocked enough to respect him, and the two become unexpectedly lovers. His men are turned back into humans, and here's the part that never makes it into the highlight reel. Odysseus stays on that island with Circe for an entire year. Comfortable, safe, not going anywhere. Eventually, his crew reminds him why they're out here at all. It's time to go home. But Circe has one more thing to tell him before he leaves, and it isn't good news. To find his way home, Circe says, Odysseus must first sail to the realm of the dead. This is one of the strangest, darkest stretches of the entire epic. Odysseus sails to the edge of the world, where the sun doesn't reach, and performs a ritual to summon the spirits of the dead, pouring blood into a pit so the ghosts can speak. Among the shades that rise to meet him, his own mother, who died of grief waiting for his return, and the blind prophet Tiresias. Tiresias tells him the truth of what's ahead. Yes, he will make it home. But it won't be easy. More men will die. More trials wait for him. And even reaching Ithaca won't be the end of his suffering. It's the closest thing the story gives to a warning label, and what follows is the most relentless stretch of the entire journey. One danger after another, almost no time to breathe. The Sirens, creatures whose song is so beautiful that sailors steer straight into the rocks just to hear it forever. Odysseus wants to hear it and survive, so he has his men stuff their ears with wax, then tie him to the mast so he can listen without being able to act on it. He hears the song, he survives. Nobody else in history gets to say that. Scylla, a six-headed monster living in a cliffside cave, waiting for ships to pass close enough. As Odysseus's ship sails through the strait, Scylla strikes, snatching 6 of his men, 1 in each mouth, screaming as they're carried away. Odysseus can only watch. There was no way to save them. Charybdis, on the opposite side of the strait, a whirlpool that swallows the sea itself 3 times a day, capable of pulling an entire ship down into the depths. Odysseus threads the needle between the two, losing men to one monster to avoid losing the whole ship to the other. The cattle of the sun. Starving and desperate, Odysseus's surviving men land on an island sacred to the sun god Aeolus, home to his prized cattle. Odysseus warns them, don't touch the herd. But hunger wins. While he sleeps, his men slaughter and eat the sacred cows. Aeolus is furious. He demands justice from Zeus himself. The moment Odysseus's ship leaves the island, Zeus destroys it with a thunderbolt. Every remaining man drowns. Only Odysseus survives, clinging to wreckage utterly alone. The man who left Troy with 12 ships and hundreds of soldiers now has nothing. No crew, no ship, no home in sight. Just him, and the sea that's hated him from the very beginning. He washes ashore on the island of the goddess Calypso, and stays there for 7 years. Calypso is an immortal, and she genuinely loves him. She offers him something almost no mortal is ever offered: immortality itself. "Stay with her," she says, "and live forever as a god." Any other hero might take the deal instantly. Odysseus doesn't. He weeps on the beach every day, staring out at the sea, aching for a mortal wife, a mortal son, and a small, ordinary, imperfect kingdom called Ithaca. He turns down eternal life for the chance to grow old at home. It's the clearest window into who Odysseus actually is. Not a man chasing glory or immortality, a man who just wants to go back to where he belongs. Eventually the gods intervene, and Calypso is ordered to let him go. Odysseus builds a raft and sets sail one more time, only for Poseidon to spot him and wreck it in one final act of spite. He washes up barely alive on the shore of the Phaeacians, a seafaring people known for their hospitality. They take him in, and he tells them his entire story, everything you've just heard, from his own mouth. Moved by what he survived, they give him a ship and finally sail him home. 20 years after leaving for Troy, Odysseus sets foot on Ithaca. Up to now it's been a survival epic: monsters, gods, open water. From here, it becomes something closer to a revenge thriller. While Odysseus was gone, over 100 suitors have moved into his palace, devouring his food, spending his wealth, and pressuring his wife Penelope to remarry, assuming Odysseus is dead. His son Telemachus, just a baby when the war began, is now a young man watching strangers try to steal his birthright. Athena disguises Odysseus as a filthy old beggar before he even reaches his own front door. Nobody recognizes him, not the suitors, not the servants. Even Telemachus doesn't know it's his father at first. Odysseus walks into his own home invisible and starts watching, waiting. Penelope, still faithful after 20 years, sets a test. Whoever can string her husband's great bow, a bow so powerful no ordinary man can even bend it, and shoot an arrow through a row of 12 axe heads, can marry her. One by one the suitors try. One by one they fail, humiliated, unable even to string it. Then the old beggar asks for a turn. The suitors laugh at him. He picks up the bow that has beaten every young, strong man in the room, and strings it as easily as a musician tuning an instrument. He fires the arrow clean through all 12 axe heads without missing. He rips off his disguise. Odysseus, king of Ithaca, has come home. It's one of the greatest reveals in the history of storytelling, and every suitor in that hall knows in that instant exactly what's coming next. Odysseus, joined by Telemachus and a pair of loyal servants, barricades the doors and turns his bow on the suitors who spent 20 years eating his food and courting his wife. Athena herself joins the fight, tipping the odds. The suitors, unarmed and trapped, don't stand a chance. By the end, the great hall of Ithaca, the one strangers had occupied for years, belongs to its rightful king again. Penelope is reunited with the husband she never stopped waiting for. The kingdom is his. The home he crossed a decade of monsters and gods to reach is finally, truly, his again. So why does a story this old still matter nearly 3,000 years later? Because underneath the monsters and the gods, the Odyssey is about things that never stop being true. Home, family, loyalty. The idea that intelligence can beat brute strength, that endurance, just refusing to quit, can outlast almost anything, and that even the cleverest man alive can be undone by his own pride, the way Odysseus was, the moment he shouted his name back at a blinded giant. It's a story about temptation too, about how many times Odysseus could have stopped. Comfort with Circe, immortality with Calypso, forgetting everything with the Lotus. Every time he chooses the harder, more human path instead. Nearly 3,000 years later, the Odyssey still inspires novels, films, television, and games. It's not simply the story of a man fighting monsters. It's the story of someone who refuses to give up, no matter how impossible the journey becomes.